Can't help doing it. Could you imagine if Hope was like, let's add that to the PowerPoint? Excuse
what
me?
year is it?
How old am I? This is how the podcast breaks up.
This is the last episode of Supergirl Radio. You want a Kryptonian? You got one.
Is it a movie about saving Argo? The answer to that one is no. It's called Witch for a Summer! ! Where does she want to go? Ask her. Talk to her. Really commune with flat Supergirl.
Did we set the bar too high or too low?
I think we set the bar real medium.
You're doing an intensely adequate podcast.
Good.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Noyce, and you're listening to Supergirl Radio.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira.
I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because of her outfit.
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the CW Supergirl TV series and the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And for this episode of the podcast, we are live and wired on YouTube and Facebook with a special guest who is no stranger to longtime listeners of Supergirl Radio. With us this week is Carly Lane Perry, who is a former co-host of the podcast and is back to share her thoughts about how Supergirl wrapped up. Thank you for joining us, Carly, and being back on Supergirl Radio.
I had like the biggest deja vu hit me just now listening to the theme song again. I was like, oh man, just like, whoo, nostalgia big time, right?
Well, we're glad to have you back. After the show ended, we were kind of curious what other people thought about how it went down. And since we hadn't heard your Supergirl thoughts in a while, we thought we would invite you back. We also, just so the listeners know, we also invited Teresa Giacino, but she is not caught up on Supergirl, so we can't have a conversation.
So we're gonna have to rope her around eventually.
Just yet, yeah. So whenever Teresa catches up on Supergirl and wants to talk about the Girl of Steel again, we will have Teresa back on. So one day maybe we can have everybody. That's kind of the dream, is maybe have a full panel. So welcome, Carly. We will get to your thoughts about Supergirl. But before we do that, we actually need to get to
the news.
According to TVLine.com, Katie McGraw has booked her first post-Supergirl role. The actress will co-star in Stars's, that's easy to say, forthcoming John Wick prequel series, The Continental, as the adjudicator. So the Deadline first reported that, produced by Lionsgate Television, the 3-night event takes John Wick fans back to 1975 New York City, where a young criminal named Winston Scott, the flight attendant's Colin Woodall, navigates the city's nefarious underbelly in an attempt to take control of the Continental, a notorious hangout for all manner of ne'er-do-wells. Not a word you see often, and I like it.
Is that how that's spelled? I guess it is.
I guess it is. I have to assume with just the little, sure.
Yeah.
Get rid of that V. In addition to McGraw, who's coming off a 5-season stint as Lena Luthor on CW Supergirl, the series has also cast Ray McKinnon, who was in Mayans MC, as Jenkins, Adam Shapiro, Never Have I Ever, as Lemmy, and Mark Muhashi and Marina Mezpa as high table assassins Hansel and Gretel.
Yes,
so, sure.
Yeah. So Carly, have you been keeping up with this news? Are you excited to see Katie McGraw in a new John Wick prequel series?
So what's funny is a friend of mine, we were talking about what her first post Supergirl role was going to be, because we were like, okay, clearly she's going to take a break. She deserves it. Have some chill time. Like, she was clearly doing some vacationing or whatever. If you were kind of like stalking her on Instagram, which I was not. I don't know why you would imply that. No, but I just remember she was like definitely like holidaying and stuff, and I was like, good for her. But I feel like this, I don't know if either of you have seen the John Wick movies at all, but the Adjudicator is someone who's been introduced in, I think it's either the second or third John Wick movie. It's the character that's played by Aja Kate Dillon. So there's somebody who, I'm assuming this is like just a title that's worn by different characters, but basically the Adjudicator is like the person who works for the High Table, which is like the organization of assassins, and it's their job to kind of like show up to places that maybe the rules have been broken and kind of like smack people, or like kind of be like, you're in trouble a little bit, like be a little bit of the like, I don't know, like the rule enforcer, I guess, is kind of they're kind of like the High Table's like representative of, the politics and stuff. And if people have been naughty, like, so I was kind of like, I don't know who's been reading my like personal Tumblr page, but I feel like Katie as the Adjudicator is like perfect casting. So
that's good to know. I've heard those movies are really good. I
heard they're really fun. I've never seen them because I can't get over the basic premise of like the dog dying. It's fine that he then goes on like a killing spree, but the fact that a dog dies in the beginning, I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can do it.
I mean, if it helps, he gets really upset about it. So like
he does avenge the dog, so that's gonna help a little.
And also then there's a new dog that he adopts that is okay for the rest of
thank God. Okay. That's gonna help.
Yeah. It's pretty skippable. But yeah, I think this is the one that who they had already cast a couple different people, but then they're doing another spinoff with Anna Darmus. I think they're doing a spinoff movie that's like about the ballet school that's in like one of the other John Wick movies, and it's where they train ballerina assassins. I don't know,
like a full like Black Widow Red Room situation that they've got going.
I mean, I just love they keep introducing like more assassins in these movies, and I always love it when movies kind of like, the first movie is literally about a guy seeking revenge on his dog, and then every other movie since they've been like, we're going to build out this whole mythology and world building stuff, and I just think that's really funny. So
there's 10 levels of assassins now.
pretty much.
Yeah, so this it's taking place in the 70s, so we could potentially see Katie McGraw working some 70s clothes.
The boardrooms or ballrooms we're gonna have from that are just gonna be chef's kiss.
So that's very exciting if you're a Katie McGraw fan, which we are. So I'm definitely going to check this out. I'll have to catch up on the John Wick series and make sure I know all about the various methods of assassins in that mythology. Also, speaking of former Supergirl cast members and their new roles, I'm very excited about this one. Stas Nair, who played William Day on Supergirl, has joined Zack Snyder's film Rebel Moon. Not a lot is kind of known about Rebel Moon so far, but from what I've gathered, the story synopsis for Netflix's Rebel Moon, which was revealed to the Hollywood Reporter, reads as, quote, the story is set in motion when a peaceful colony on the edge of the galaxy is threatened by the armies of a tyrannical regent named Belisarius, maybe? Desperate, the colonists dispatch a young woman with a mysterious past to seek out warriors from neighboring planets to help them make a stand. And then apparently there was some additional plot information for the movie that was released in November 2021, saying the film is set in a peaceful colony on the edge of the galaxy that finds itself threatened by the armies of the tyrannical regent Belisarius, which we kind of already read. They dispatch a young woman. So basically the same thing. I don't know why the article had two things of the same,
but it's exactly the same.
It's exactly the same. But basically, there's some rebels and there's a tyrant, and that's what that's about. So pretty excited about that. I guess I could share this for the viewing audience. That let's see, Zack Snyder himself announced Stas Nair as part of the cast on his Twitter account.
Who else is in the cast? I'm trying to see if I recognize any.
I mean, you're gonna I was gonna say you recognize a lot of people, I think.
Oh yeah, look at that.
There's some big names in this one. Charlie Hunnam, help me out with the next name.
Oh, Jimon Hansu, yeah.
Duna Bay, Ray Fisher, Sophia Botella, Jenna Malone, E. Duffy, don't know E. Duffy, have to look that up. Charlotte Maggie, and Sky Yang. So some of these actors I know, some I don't. So that's very exciting. And there's also been some different concept art that's been released for Rebel Moon. So it's got a big cast, and there's some good and evil going on. So pretty excited about that. So I'm glad to see
that's a Netflix project.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Zack Snyder's been doing a lot of stuff for Netflix since he told Warner Brothers, and I quote, to suck it. So so he literally did that on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. So that is why he's pretty much exclusively with Netflix now.
Yeah, they did they signed a deal, I think. So he's basically he and Deborah are doing just like I think everything is essentially going to go with Netflix unless the deal ends at some point.
Yeah, didn't Netflix do a similar thing with like Shonda Rhimes too? That's why they've got like Bridgerton.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think they've also, I don't know if they've made a deal with Christopher Nolan, but I think there might be something in the works with Christopher Nolan. I can't imagine being Warner Brothers these days. Losing Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder, like what are y'all doing over there? Warner Brothers, what are y'all doing? But anyway, so I'm excited about that, and I'm glad to see Stas Nair get a really big opportunity, because some of his time on Supergirl was unfortunate for him as an actor, because sometimes he would be in an episode where all he did was watch TV for a few minutes, and that was disappointing.
Oh, poor Stas.
He could have done so much more, because he's a good actor, I think. So I'm excited to see what he does in the possible, I don't know, space western, space fantasy. Who knows what that's going to end up being.
That'll be very different.
Yeah, so that'll be good for Stas to get that kind of exposure. All right, well, I guess since we've kind of gotten some news and cast announcements out of the way, I guess is once we continue to see some of the actors from Supergirl pop up and other things, we'll try to keep everybody updated on that. But since we have Carly with us to talk about some Supergirl stuff, Carly, if you don't mind, we're just going to kind of walk through some of the seasons that you missed on Supergirl Radio and just kind of pick your brain about some things. So I guess the first season that we'll start with is Supergirl season 3. So in season 3, we got a lot of things. We got the World Killers, we got Rain. We got the Legion of Superheroes, which included the introduction of Brainy, who stayed around in the series until it ended. And we also got to go to Argo. So what about season 3, Carly, was something that stood out to you or something that that you really liked about that season?
I mean, it's funny to think about. Season 3 now feels like forever ago too.
It was a long time ago.
I feel like now, like it's hard to envision the show before Brainy, because I feel like Jesse Rath has just became such a, just like a pivotal character on the show now, that it's like, it's funny to think about like the early season of like how the Legion came back and it was Mon-El and everybody. And I'll be honest, I was a little worried when they kind of started to go a little love triangle there, that like they were it was gonna be my
Mon-El was sliding down that scale from pause to neg.
By the end of season 3, the Mon-El scale for me had exploded. Like it just imploded on itself because of that love triangle. And I was pretty Mon positive for the most part, but there at the end of season 3,
You were a balance for Mon-El, and then by the end of season 3, it was just
I was very upset about it. So yeah, so I'm glad to hear that I wasn't the only one that had problems with the end of that.
I liked the beard. Christopher Wood looks really nice with a beard. But
beard was a great choice. Great choice.
It looked very wise. Yeah.
I'm like, yes, I think they're very. I was like, I think looks good with the beard. I'm happy that he and Melissa are happy in real life. But in terms of the character, I was not into that relationship. And there was a part of me that was like, oh, why are they bringing him back just to have? I don't know. They kind of thread a little bit of, I know ultimately that he ends up, kind of leaving and going back to the future and having that, but it was one of those things where, it's coming back and seeing the ex, right? It's the ex, but then you also have your new relationship storyline. And I was sitting there going, please don't insert the drama of, which they kind of did a little bit, but
they got pretty close.
They got close, and then they veered away at the last minute, and I was like, thank goodness, because I don't need Kara like breaking up a marriage, right? So.
Well, I guess it's okay, because by the end of season 6, Mon-El's never going to see her again in this lifetime. So
not ever in this life. He's like, I win the breakup. Goodbye.
She got Brainy in the divorce, which I feel like is a better result.
I think so. That is kind of sad. Brainy was probably like, Mon-El, and Mon-El was like, sorry, kid.
Yeah. So other than the Mon-El and the potential love triangle, was there anything else that you really remember enjoying during season 3?
I liked the Rain storyline. I was a little bummed that we didn't get more beyond the season, because I really liked Sam. I felt like she was a nice addition to the ladies in the cast. So, and also it was I feel like it's the whole, you've got almost two sides of yourself kind of storyline, where like she has a kind of this dark side that she doesn't have control over, and doesn't, and then it starts to kind of bleed into her attempts to have a normal life, which I thought was really, and when you think about it now, it's like, oh, obviously it's a little bit of a metaphor for Kara's trying to like split up Supergirl and Kara Danvers, right? So it's just funny that I'm like retroactively realizing like, oh, of course they used it as like the more extreme version of, the two sides of Kara as usual. So, but now I'm trying to remember. What was her name? Odette Annable was the actress. I thought she was great. So it was kind of I was a little bit of a bummer when she kind of, had to leave the show. But
yeah, I would have kept Sam around. I think.
Yeah.
There was, like
if there was any way,
regular people in the cast, and not by the end, of course, not by the end. Lena was a witch by the end, but. But there was a period of time when you were like allowed to be regular and like chill with the squad, and like I feel like that could have been her time.
So I'm curious, Morgan. So if Sam had stayed around, what would she have been doing?
I don't know. That's a good question. Like maybe she would have helped Lena run Elcor. Maybe she would have been like she would have gotten into arguments with Andrea Roja about like how to run a company, not let evil people take over and try to use it to mind control the world, that kind of stuff. I feel like she would have been a good counterbalance to Lena, like when Lena started to like go off the deep end, like my friends were mean to me, and like I'm gonna mind control the world, and Sam would have been like, maybe we step back. Maybe we just all step back and take a breather.
Yeah, I guess I'm of a different opinion. By the end of season 3, I don't think you need Sam anymore, but I like the way they handled it where they brought Sam back occasionally to have conversations with Lena, or to give her some wise advice, and they brought her back for the 100th episode. So I thought they did a good job of bringing her back, but not spending a lot of time with her. But I loved Rain. I was very surprised by how great Odette Annable was. I think Rain was probably maybe the best villain on the show. She was better than I thought she was going to be. So Rain and the World Killers were good additions. Did you have any thoughts about the other World Killers? Just curious.
Now I feel like I'm having my memory tested, which is already bad. It's already bad as it is. So I'm like,
well, there was Pestilence, who was probably our second favorite here on Supergirl Radio, otherwise known as Grace, because she really liked being a world killer. She really liked killing people.
That was like the one that accepted that she was a world killer like immediately and was like, "Cool, I'm good with it."
Yeah, the other one, oh gosh,
I can't remember her name, but she was like fighting against it. She was like fighting
her name?
The good fight
Live
against
chat,
evil.
come through for us. Who was the other world killer? I'm blanking on it myself. But she fought it for a while. But Grace, she gave it immediately. But yeah, so they were kind of around for a little bit.
Yeah, not a lot though. I feel like by the time it was kind of more towards the end of that season, I feel like they finally started to really, and then it was kind of the climax of the season anyway, and then it was like, oh well, we're done with that, I guess.
Was that the season with the Kryptonian witches? Am I remembering that right?
Well, the Kryptonian the dumb one stayed around for a little while. She would come back occasionally. But yeah, the witches were introduced in season 3. Yeah, Purity was the other one, but I'm trying to remember what her Julia Freeman / Purity.
That's right.
Yeah, I couldn't remember her like not her normal
it's a
name,
long
her
time
human
ago.
her human name. Yeah, so the World Killers were a great addition. They weren't exactly like they were in the New 52 comics. They were very different, but I think they did a good job adapting it to the world of Supergirl on TV. So let's move on to season 4, Carly. So what were some things about season 4 that you thought were big standouts, or things that you liked? You can also talk about things that maybe you didn't like if you have any of those. But season 4 was the introduction of John Cryer as Lex Luthor, the introduction of Nia Null and Dreamer. Manchester Black and the Elite were around. Red Daughter featured prominently there at the end, and Benjamin Lockwood and Agent Liberty, he was around as well. So what about season 4 kind of sticks out at you?
I mean, a lot that you just mentioned. Lex obviously is a big one, which is funny because I think when the casting was first announced, I'm not sure how sold I was initially on the idea of John Cryer, but like, as we've seen, I mean, I feel like his take on Lex was just so different than anything we've seen before, but worked for the show, I think specifically. I have mixed feelings on how heavily the show leaned on Lex, though, in later seasons. I think there was a little bit, there was too much of a reliance on him as a character. I think that the show didn't even really need. So
I don't know why you would say that. I mean, it's not like every season ended exactly the same way.
It's not like the show is called Supergirl, right? Like, I appreciate wanting to have him kind of in their back pocket for stuff, but there were times where I was like, all right, does Lex need to show up for this? Probably not. He was great, but I think there was just an over-reliance on him. Nicole Maines, though, honestly, fantastic. I think Nia Null as a character, just seeing her growth through the show, I feel like she started strong but ended it pretty phenomenally. Like her journey coming into her power, kind of being, I feel like the show pulled that off in a way that felt believable. I loved the concept too of like kind of the Dreamer mantle passing on to the daughter, but then like them subverting it with her, being transgender, and then like going to the daughter that no one expected it to, right? Like I think that was such a clever way to do it. And plus also I think you could tell that the show was really listening when it came to like ways to kind of thoughtfully portray certain issues like surrounding that. So I thought that was really, plus she's just a delight on Twitter. So it's like,
Oh, I love Nicole May. And you could sometimes feel Nicole May's hand there too. I think that she definitely got in there and had thoughts and opinions on what her character was doing, how Nia should be represented as a transgender hero, but also just like we had the pleasure of talking to her one time, and we were like, "Oh, did you know this like thing from the comics?" And she was like, "I know everything from the comics."
She did.
She wrote a Dreamer comic recently, didn't she? Yeah. Which
in an anthology called DC Pride. So I mean, it was a short story, but definitely the first appearance of Dreamer in the comics officially.
I wouldn't be surprised to see more Dreamer pop up either in the comics or in some other venue. I feel like that was a really good character that they added on this show to like the DC mythology in general.
Plus, it was, I feel like, good to see a younger superhero, because we've seen Kara, kind of have that journey of like coming into her power. And then later, I think the season kind of ended up being her kind of trying to balance her two worlds, her two identities. But she was always kind of the more, I would say, comfortable superhero in her role, and kind of was able to provide guidance and mentorship to Nia, which I always really liked. It felt like there was a really nice kind of like big sister, little sister relationship between them, which was really cute. Plus, I always just liked seeing Nia fall asleep at her desk, and then and then realizing that like it was a power thing, which was really funny. A funny way to kind of introduce that, like she falls asleep and has visions and stuff. So
good.
Yeah, Kara may have mentored her too well, not showing up to work sometimes.
Right. Just like not writing stories. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, are you writing articles anymore? I don't know what's going on.
I remember when they first announced that Kara was going to be a mentor to somebody, and I was like, ooh, professionally though? I don't know if that's a great idea. And then like by the end of the show, like Nia never is in that building either. And I was like, well, she did mentor her. I mean...
She did pass down everything she knew.
She was like, this is exactly what being a superhero is. You don't actually have to show up to work anymore. Step one.
And Carly, you mentioned some of the issues that the show decided to address. There was more of that starting in season 4. Season 3 tried to deal with it with the gun control episode, which, oh boy, that was not great. But they started trying it with the gun control episode at the end of season 3, and then they started to make it more of a season long thing. So how did you think that the writing actually tried to accomplish that?
I feel like you could almost see two different sides to it, because I feel like the Nia stuff was always handled super well, but then like the Agent Liberty Ben Lockwood stuff, I felt like was pretty heavy-handed at times, or maybe a little clumsy with like trying to portray that side of things, with the I also just I was like, Sam Witwer, you're making some choices here that are just wild to me. But I think that's unfortunately sometimes with the show, like they have a way of handling things really well, and in other storylines you almost feel like they kind of just were like, we need a metaphor in here for immigration or whatever, and then it's like, all right, this is a little obvious. But
we always used to complain that they worked backwards, so it didn't like always make sense in the world of the show, but they were like, well, here's this theme and we're just going to kind of shove it on top of the show as it is. And it's like sometimes it worked and sometimes you were just like, but like Alex has a gun.
Yeah, why are you so upset about guns when most of the characters use them on
the DEO? Like she's got like her special alien power is like gun.
Yeah. So what do you think about that, Carly, in terms of like writing and choosing how you're going to approach a season? Do you think it's better to just kind of plot out the season, or do you think that the writing, the way they chose to do it on Supergirl, where they stuck, because they always, season 4 and season 5 and season 6, I shouldn't say always, those 3 seasons, they announced a big theme that they were going for, and then they would kind of write around that. Season 4 was, what was the theme of season 4?
I want to say that it was something about journalism, which seems weird in hindsight thinking about it, because I was like, don't feel like that much journalism happened then. And then season 5 was definitely technology, like the evils of technology.
Yes. Look, there's Beaker.
Hi,
Beaker appearance.
say hi, Beaker. Beaker has some hot takes to share.
Yeah, season 5 was technology. Season 6 was power. I want to say season 4 was also connected to fear, maybe. I think I remember them saying fear a lot. So what do you think about that approach, Carly, to start from a theme and then write all of the episodes of the season sort of around that?
I feel like there's nothing necessarily wrong with that approach. Like, if you know you want to tackle that on the show and then talking about, I think there's something really interesting in the approach of like, okay, we know we want to address this theme of like journalism or misinformation or like whatever. And then talk about, I think the thing you have to remember is like how each character is going to be impacted by that theme, or what shape that theme is going to take in their life specifically, as opposed to, I think sometimes this is something that just like fiction writing, like TV or movie writing runs into, that's a problem in general. This isn't something specifically indicative of Supergirl, but like I did notice this on the show, where the script puts them in a place because it needs them to be there, and not because the character would have made a decision that makes sense for them to be there. Like, yeah. I was watching a movie the other night that I can't talk about because it has not come out yet, but you could very clearly tell that the script positioned these characters in a certain scene to not leave this setting because they were supposed to stay there and something bad was going to happen to them.
the next thing has to happen to them, and so that's why they go to this location. And it's like, yeah, I see that. I've seen that a lot in fiction in general. I do think it's hard to, like, we kind of overstate because we're just like watching the show and going like, I don't know, but it is kind of hard to, like, if you pick a big theme and then you have like 7 characters, like how are you going to tie like 7 different ongoing storylines into a theme? And so sometimes you would get these episodes where you're like, why is Alex doing that?
Yeah. So that was something that they tried to do every season, and it was definitely very different because the showrunners had changed at the end of season 3. So it was a different writing approach because of the people who were now show running it versus the showrunners of the early seasons. So it was a different approach. I personally didn't care for it just because I don't think the seasons were as strong doing it that way. But it is, if you try to do it right, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. But the way they went about it was not necessarily my personal favorite.
I'm interested on what you thought of like the Red Daughter stuff, because I was looking at the doc and I was like, oh my God, Red Daughter. That's right. That happened in season 4. And I thought that was going to be a bigger deal than it ended up being.
I feel like for what we got, though, I was personally very moved by that storyline. I felt like Melissa really sold the character as kind of someone that you could see as what would have happened to this character if she had been raised in very different circumstances, right? Like, what would her life have been like if she dropped in to, was it Casnia was the fictional country, right?
I think so.
As opposed to, wherever I can't remember where did they grow up? The name of the town.
Midvale.
Yes. If she had dropped into Casnia instead of Midvale, you think about like nature versus nurture, the concept of like how we're raised shapes us into the person that we become, in a sense. Like, some of it is, choice and free will, but some of it is definitely like the environment that we grow up in. And so, but it's also interesting to see, like, it was interesting to see the traits of Kara that still came through, even though Red Daughter had grown up, like her kind of having those instincts to still want to do the right thing in the end, which I thought was really, like, she's always going to kind of be inherently good in a sense. And so there was a part of me that was like, when they had to merge back together, I was like, I got a little emotional, like, I'm not gonna lie. But it was also like, okay, Kara's whole again, this is her full personality. So
yeah, there's a scene where Red Daughter goes back to try to rescue Mikhail, the little boy that she had befriended in Kasnia. And it was just devastating when she thought he had died. And she kind of fell apart and was angry and sad. And Melissa's performance there was just was, to your point, very moving. Because she made that very real and made you, or at least made me, feel a lot for Red Daughter, even though she had initially started kind of being on the bad side of things with Lex Luthor. There were some great Supergirl traits that she still had instinctively because she was tied to Kara. So I think they did a good job of bringing that out towards the end.
I like the parallels that they drew too, because she says that like she has her own Alex, but it turns out it's Lex Luthor. And like, how different would your life be if you didn't have Alex Danvers like in your corner, but instead you had Lex Luthor? It's probably like a much different vibe. I guess Lena could relate. And she's like, he just never will let me ride my horses in peace. And
yeah, so the Red Daughter aspect of season, it started very slowly. They sort of teased her a little bit at the beginning, but she doesn't really come back much until sort of the middle to the end. So they took their time with Red Daughter, but I think it ended up being pretty impactful by the end of it. All right, so let's talk about season 5, because this is a season for me personally that I think is the weakest. We'll Carly, we'll at the end we'll have you rank the seasons, because I'm very curious about your ranking.
Okay.
Season 5
So
would probably
hard.
be at the bottom for me, but I'm curious how your ranking would come out. So season 5 had Leviathan, sort of. It had Rama Khan. It had Gemma Cooper / Gamemne, who we nicknamed Pencil Skirt, and it also introduced Andrea Rojas / Akrata, and had the theme of technology and the VR. So, Carly, what did you think about season 5?
Oh man, what a I don't, just a variety. No, I feel like, and the funny thing is, I think I had kind of fallen off watching, and I think I had picked up with season 5 and watched, straight through after that. So I was able to kind of like binge it a little. I feel like Leviathan as a unknown threat was more terrifying than as advertised than what we ended up getting. Like, I don't know. It was like going into season 5, it was this mysterious entity that we knew nothing about that was almost scarier. But then once we had the actual like knowledge of who Leviathan was, I was like, oh, it's just like ancient like beings or whatever, I guess, that are also just like really cranky. And it's Mitch Pileggi from X-Files. Like, okay.
it's just ancient Skinner, and he's mad. He's still mad.
Right.
Older.
Right. And I was like, okay, sure, I guess. I wouldn't say disappointed. I just feel like it was scarier when you didn't know who they were. And it was scarier when you saw other people being scared of them on the show. So there was that. But then I also feel like Andrea Rojas, other than giving me like Lena Luthor, Indiana Jones energy with the flashback stuff, which was probably the best part.
Love that episode.
Also a little bit of a letdown. Like, I feel like they introduced her with the powers and then kind of only have in the remaining seasons had her use them when it was appropriate for her to use. Like we said before about the script needing her to use the powers for some reason, so she uses the powers, later. Like, I think, isn't she the one that finds what's his name? Poor Stas later.
Oh, William Day. Yeah.
Yes. That's her, right? She kind of comes in and finds him because she's used her darkness shadow powers or whatever they are to like, to like, it's like I don't know the word for it, but she like goes in and out of, she travels in and out of the
it's like
the shadows, I guess.
like
shadow travel. Yeah, it's like teleport.
Kind of thing. It was really strange. I always, every time that she would do it in later seasons, I would go, oh, that's right, she's got superpowers. But like, it was never a thing that they developed with her. So she would only ever use them when she needed to like steal somebody's diary.
Right. Like, I need to get notes and from a room or break into a safe because the script needs me to have access to these things or whatever.
She
it was
couldn't
fun
have
to
done
see
it
like
any other way.
like, look, I'm never going to complain about Lena Luthor backstory stuff. And I think that I liked the friendship with Lena and Andrea, but I also think that like there were times when like again they would have weird falling outs and then like be friends again, and you'd be like, wait, when are they friends? Are they friends now? Like I can't keep track. So she was also a character that made me personally bitter as somebody who works in like media and journalism and like took over Catco and was like, we need to, get our ratings up. So here's what we're going to write about. And I'm sitting here going, this is too real. This is too real.
Carly's like sweating. My favorite one was she's like, we're ranked third and we have to be second. And I was like, ranked third on what? What the webpage.gov or something? Like, what are you talking? What rankings? It's not the Billboard Hot 100. Like, I don't.
But yeah, I was like, it was just, I mean, I'm sure part of it was because the writers know that, there are companies that are like always trying to retool their strategy and like, or like pivot to video or stuff. And it's like, and it doesn't end up working out. And you're just sitting there going, it's too real. It's too close to reality. I don't like it.
Yeah, if she had pivoted to video, I would have probably complained less. That I would be like, oh, okay, this does feel quite real.
That would have made more sense in season 5 with the theme of technology.
Or something. Or she's like, we're all in the metaverse now.
That would have actually been very appropriate, a pivot to video during the technology. But I guess they pivoted to VR is what basically
they did.
Right.
I guess they were kind of ahead of the curve.
People are dying in VR. It's no big deal. So you made a good point, Carly, about Leviathan. And Daryl says in the chat, Margot, old lady Margot at the end of season 4 definitely oversold Leviathan when she was like, Leviathan is everyone, Leviathan is everywhere. And I was like, oh, okay, that's
right. You think it's like
creepy.
you think it's some like insidious widespread presence, and then it turns out it's just a bunch of like old cranky people with powers.
And then there's like Leviathan is everyone, but it's really just, again, it's really just Skinner from the X-Files.
Right. It's 2 people.
They're like, Leviathan is everyone, but then by the end of season 5, Leviathan is no one.
we never found out who the head of Leviathan was either. They were just like, they just kind of like petered out at the end. They're like, oops.
Oh well, we'll never know. They made a big deal about who the head of Leviathan was. It was a she, but that's all we know about her. So good for her, I guess. She remained anonymous to the bitter end.
Also, the special effects I remember on old Skinner's powers looked real bad, real bad.
They weren't the best. No,
you weren't a big fan of the dirt throwing power,
the dirt piles.
His rock throwing or dirt throwing, whatever it was. Oof.
Yeah, he was at least a different character for the show. It was a different power set. It was something they were mixing it up, I guess, a little bit, but
that's a very generous read of it.
They at least tried something new, I guess. So I guess that takes us to season 6, which is the final season of the Supergirl TV series. So Carly, just curious, what were your hopes and dreams and aspirations for the show going into season 6? How did you hope that it was gonna wrap up?
Oh, hopes and dreams. I guess I didn't really have anything other than everybody kept hyping it up from the cast. And I remember Melissa giving some interview that was like, I'm really happy with how Kara's story ended up. And there was a part of me that was like, look, I just want her to be happy. Like, but then I was also like, God, I hope they don't bring back Mon-El, because there had been rumors that Christopher Wood was going to come back. And then like, in the 11th hour that like she would have a romance like in the finale for no reason, or you know what I mean, like someone get that we'd already seen like get shoehorned in so she could have a boyfriend. And I was just like, oh, like if anything, I was just like, you know what, I'd rather her not, if she's gonna have anything that's at the end of the season, I'd rather not have it be like an 11th hour love interest. I'd rather it just be her being happy. So in that sense, I actually liked the ending that we got of the show. because I was like, well, Kara feels like she's at the most complete version of herself in terms of embracing both sides of her identity, in terms of finally being open to the world about herself. Also, it's always good to see Kat Grant again, so I was super pleased that they brought her back, like specifically for the finale, just to have, even though I was like, it was pretty funny that she basically just offered Kara a job like from the beach, which feels like Kat. It felt like Kat, but also
Goals.
yeah, still calling her Kira, which that made me emotional, honestly. Like Callista Flockhart still calling her Kira, and then also like realize, of course, she knew that she was Supergirl the whole time, so it was like that was kind of it felt like a nice full circle moment, because we haven't had Kat on the show since season 1, right? So like,
Yeah.
before the show moved to the CW, so it was like
she showed up at the end of season 2 for like
right.
1 or 2 episodes, yeah.
But not like as a main. So
Right.
it was a nice kind of way for like, it felt like a full circle moment of Kat Grant being the one to do the big reveal, the big press reveal of Kara Danvers is Supergirl kind of thing.
She was Supergirl's first interview, so
The exclusive. She got the
very
exclusive.
fitting. Yeah.
So
yeah, so we talked a little bit about Kara's ending. How do you think things wrapped up for other characters of the show? I think we previously mentioned Lena Luthor taking a turn as a witch. So Carly, what did you think about that reveal that she got magical powers by the end of the show?
I mean, it's really funny to me that like however many years after Merlin, and they're still trying to make Katie McGrath like just do spells and say like nonsensical magic words on TV. Honestly,
You're a wizard, Katie.
I was just like, what? As much as I was excited, like, oh, which Lena, like that's kind of cool, but also like it made no sense.
It's a hard one to get mad at because it's actually so ridiculous. It almost comes back around to being charming. You're like, it doesn't make any sense. Why are you doing this?
Like, okay, so her birth mom was a witch, I guess, and which her birth mom is also Katie in a terrible wig, which is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I was like, they put Katie in that god awful wig to do flashback scenes and take pictures as her own mom. But I don't know. I guess there was also a part of me that was like, I did like I felt like also it was more of the like found family kind of firming up, because you get not only the Alex and Kelly wedding, which was super cute, but also like Lena getting to be godmother. And then, it just felt like everybody's kind of like the family is kind of clicking. Although I was like, if Nia and Brainy aren't officially together by the finale, I'm gonna like, I do think they were kind of starting to reconcile, but I was like, are they officially together? Can we just say it, please? Like, are they a couple? I guess they are, right? I don't know. There's nothing to like disprove that they're not, but I felt like they kind of had a breakup and then flirted with getting back together. Like, especially when they went back to Midvale in the past, there was that whole kind of thing between them that never really felt resolved to me. But I was like, they're together, right? They aren't they together at the wedding? I guess I don't know.
They kept it very nebulous. I feel like I was like, I think they're together, but if you asked me, I couldn't tell you when that happened, that they got back together.
Yeah, I don't know. It was odd that it was like never confirmed officially. But also they're so cute. Like Nicole and Jesse are super cute together. So I was like, why not this? Can we have this, please? So, I mean, as much as
have this nice thing, please.
Honestly, I was sitting there going, as much as the rest of the season did not make sense to me, I just care about the relationships and how everybody's kind of in a good emotional state at the end. That's all I want. Like, I don't want anybody to be sad or, upset.
What were your thoughts on towards the end of the season? They made this big deal about Brainy needing to go back to the future to join up with the big brain, and he was going to make this big sacrifice, and then that never happens.
Yeah, never does it. Yeah.
What were your thoughts about that?
I have to wonder. I mean, I guess it was the whole, well, and then there was the part where he had to like turn his emotions off too, right? To like be more effective, or like, I don't know. There were times where I was like, the writing's just a mess. season 6 was so messy. Like, just trying to keep track of the Allstones.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
On any given week, I was like, Jesus.
let's get into that, because I'm curious about your thoughts about the Allstones. So it sounds like it was just as difficult for you to follow as it was for us to follow.
Yeah. Well, and then it was like they got half of them, and then they lost them or something. And then I'm just sitting there, and then like, I guess at the end it didn't even really matter that that they. I don't know. And then it was like Kara failing the trials for the Allstones too, and then that was such a big deal, but then later it wasn't a big deal. Like, it was fine that she didn't pass the test or whatever. I don't know. It was probably the aspect of the season that I paid the least attention to, because at one point I was just like, I can't follow this anymore. I feel like it's just the totem thing was just like, this is all over the place for me.
I remember there was one episode of the podcast where we were like, I think the totem thing like almost broke me that episode. It was something about like they changed the rules of the totem like midstream, and I was like, wait, I thought I understood this thing, and like I was trying to like plot out like you would see like a television character with like a board. Like, I was like, wait, if this is this, then like how is this that? And then I just realized like the rules, they were just making them up literally, like not even episode to episode. It was like scene to scene the rules would change, and I just like, oh, if I could just like, I'll just like, let go of this being like a logical plot. I'll just like go with the tide, and after that it was fine.
Yeah. Once Kara threw the hope totem into the sun, I was like, you know what? I don't care about this anymore. Whatever. This is not a thing.
Once she was like, yeah, I'm gonna throw this away, so you can't have it, right? And then you're just like, okay, sure.
Of all the totems to throw into the sun, that might not have been the right choice. So I guess since we're talking about the totems, I'm very curious, Carly. Why do you think that Lex and Nixley had lizard faces? What's your theory on that?
This is the one that's gonna haunt me. The random lizard faces.
When do they have the lizard? It's in the finale.
It's in the finale.
They both, I think, have parts of the Allstone, and they're fighting each other, and then their faces randomly become lizard faces for an unexplained reason.
And
so
it happens
nobody
really
knows.
fast too. So it was like you'd be excused for almost forgetting or just being like, did I hallucinate that?
I almost wonder if I almost wondered if it was something like using the Allstones was warping them somehow or twisting them into something not human. I mean, Nixley was not human, but like they were being changed because of using it in a way that it wasn't supposed to be. I don't know. Maybe it was like, or like a corrupting thing. Maybe that was, but they never explain it. Yeah. So I don't know, the corrupting like force of the Allstones that, you know, would turn them or something, I guess. I don't know. That's a pure theory that has no basis in anything.
I feel like it was almost there, like maybe there was some longer version of the finale and they were like, oh no, the lizard thing is like, we got to cut the lizard thing. It's like, we need to get to like the other stuff, but then they forgot to cut like the one scene. And they're like, oh no, the lizards made it in, huh? I was like, maybe no one will notice.
Yeah, that was an unexplained moment in the finale, and I just like to ask people what their theory is on that, since we don't
I feel
have
like the lizard faces is going to become the Supergirl Radio like Rorschach test where
what do you think the lizard faces meant?
Exactly.
What it says about you when you think the lizard faces are.
Exactly.
Let's see what characters have we not talked about in terms of season 6. I'm actually curious, since you brought up Cat Grant, Carly, what did you think about revisiting Midvale in season 6 and getting to meet young CJ Grant?
Oh, super fun. I always like like getting to see, well, I loved the when it was Midvale. I don't remember what season was it, 4 when they did Midvale the first time with Kara and Lena.
3?
Season 3.
Kara and Lena, Kara and Alex.
Alex, yeah.
Kara and Alex. And the actresses who played the two of them in their young roles, especially the actress who plays young Alex, is fantastic. So I was super excited to get to go back. It felt very Back to the Future with Brainy and Nia having to go to Midvale, but also like whoever played young Cat Grant was fantastic too, because I was like, well, you can just tell that she must have watched Callista's take, and then but also did just good enough of a Cat Grant where it didn't feel like she was just doing a jokey impression. It felt very much like, oh, you can see the cat that she's going to become, but this is still the young kind of intrepid reporter who has to chase down a story and like isn't sitting behind a desk in a, isn't the big boss yet. So that was kind of a fun, plus it was the fun antics of like her stumbling into like a greater conspiracy and then everybody kind of having to like avoid her for stuff. but then you realize you're like, oh man, maybe this was I feel like my brain can never fully grasp like the time travel effects of like what happens when somebody goes back and like when does it change and then when does it have an effect on the person in the present, how past affects present rules and all this stuff. So I'm always like, okay, well, I guess you could kind of say that the Midvale stuff like made her think a little bit more about aliens or something right. But then it's like, but then how does the time travel rules work when back in season 1 they hadn't gone back to Midvale yet, or had they always gone back to Midvale? Like I always get so bogged down with trying to figure out like how the rules apply.
Yeah,
So.
I try not to think about that too hard, because if you go down that route, if you really think about it, all they had to do is go back in time to before Lex sent Kara to the Phantom Zone. That's really what they should have done. But instead, they chose to go back to her high school years and then get something to try to track her to go to the Phantom Zone.
The like most convoluted. Well, and I think I don't know what the timing was. With Melissa being pregnant, I almost wonder if it was she's pregnant and is having a baby, so we need to like give her time off. So I think that's probably why the Midvale stuff happened where it did, because it was like we can only hide Melissa Benoist's baby bump for so long before,
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it was a maternity leave thing. I just wish they had gone the extra mile to say, oh, there's a reason why we can't just go back to the fortress and stop Lex from sending her to the Phantom Zone. That would have been my fix to it, but yeah. So the timey-wimey stuff is a little difficult. But Eliza Helm, as you mentioned, who played young CJ Grant, she definitely did study Callista Flockhart and her mannerisms and tried to really bring her to life at a younger age. So I thought she did a really great job. And I was curious how young Kara gets to Catco. She has this interaction with young CJ Grant in Midvale in that episode. How does she then want to go work for Cat Grant? That was always kind of my question. Like, she almost had you arrested and outed as an alien. Why would you go work for her?
That lady has sass. I like it.
So that's a big time travel question that I have. One part, well, I guess there are two things that we really hadn't touched on about season 6 yet that were pretty prominent. Carly, what did you think about Nixley, the fifth dimensional imp who was sort of the big bad for most of the season?
Yeah, I mean, Nixley is kind of funny because I feel like she never struck me as a villain in the sense of I guess she always to me felt like more mischievous than I'm diabolical and super, thumb twiddling and like I'm gonna take over the world kind of stuff. Like to me she always, and I think this has to do a lot with can't remember the name of the actress, but she always played it very like impishly, right? Like you'd get the sense of I feel like the actress always played her a little tongue in cheek all the time. She was never, maybe a little like over the top, but in a good way. But then at the same time, I was like, this is the villain for season 6, like the last season too, I guess. I don't know. It was a little. And then once again, Lex, like
playing a romantic twist at the end with Nixley. What did you think about that?
I mean, it was super funny, but at the same time, I'm sitting here going, "There's no way that he's serious." Like the entire time, I felt like he was using as a double cross, but then it came out that he wrote in his little diary that he
He's writing his little love poems.
he had his little like diary that like leaked and then everyone was laughing at him, which that to me was super funny. Where there was like
that's
his
why
little,
he murdered William Day.
yeah.
It was.
He was like, "You leaked my crush journal."
Yeah, so that was definitely a way to end it, I guess. I was a little disappointed by that. I wish Nixley had gotten to stand on her own as a villain.
Also, the way that they deal with her is just sending them back to the Phantom Zone again.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
In like 2 seconds, they line everybody up in this huge battle, and then less than a minute later, they're like, "Bye."
Yeah,
to the Phantom Zone.
they turn into lizards and then they go to the Phantom Zone.
And then
how
off they go. Case closed.
Yeah, so that was the big bads for the final season. One of the bright spots that we thought, at least, were one of the bright spots of season 6 was little Esme. So Carly, what did you think about Esme on the final season?
Yeah, she's so cute. I also was like super happy because Alex has always wanted to have kids. I don't think she was ever in a place in previous relationships to have a kid. And then with Kelly, I think they probably were thinking, oh, this is going to happen, but just not right away. And then I loved the unexpectedness of like, we found this child, and the moment when they make eye contact, like getting ready to say goodbye to her, and Kelly and Alex make eye contact, and you can just tell that they're both like, oh, she's coming home with us. I was like, oh, it was so good. I mean, Kyler is honestly, I think, still one of the best parts of the show, has been since the beginning. But it felt like a good step for her, like to kind of take the next step as a mom, and also like a mom of a girl with superpowers, which is again, like, I think a character choice that made a lot of sense, especially because it led to some really interesting conflict with Kara, like in terms of, well, this is how I want to raise my child, and I think I know how to raise a kid with superpowers. But then also Kara speaking from like personal experience of having superpowers, and maybe not always intervening in the right way. But I think, as much as I don't like to see the Danvers sisters fighting about anything, I think they both came at it from positions that made sense. And I think it's also the kind of thing too, where you're like, it was a fight where you could definitely see where each of them were coming from. But then it was like, I was sitting there going, I don't have them fighting in like in a bad place for, the rest of the season or whatever, especially because it was like, there's so many other things going on that you're like, so many other irons in the fire that you're like, really, they're fighting now? Okay, well, they better make up. And I think they actually, the one fight they got into about it, they made up by the end. So it wasn't like it was over an episode, longer than an episode. It was, we'll patch things up. So
I was curious about your thoughts about how the Danvers sisters ended, because that was such a big part of the show towards the beginning, and it sort of the show didn't seem as interested in them as sisters as the show progressed. So I was curious about that. So thanks for hitting that instead of me having to ask. I think they sort of ended well, but they did have some quarrels there. So Carly, was there anything in terms of Supergirl mythology or just things that were parts of stories that you didn't see that you wanted to see? Was there anything that you wish the show had done that they didn't do?
I mean, I'm sad we didn't get any Super Horse.
Comet
I-
the Super Horse, yeah.
I told one of my friends about the William is Comet the Super Horse theory, and that ended up being an inside joke between us for the rest of the show.
We would have taken a comet in any form that horse wanted to come to us in.
Man, so funny.
So close yet so far away. They mentioned Lena like having horses all the time, but none of them were Comet.
They could have done it.
They could have done it. Or like a streaky. Well, did they have a streaky reference? Maybe not.
They had a streaky in season 3. It was not a super powered cat, but there was a cat named Streaky.
That's right. Okay. I don't know if there's anything specifically. I also feel like I'm not super as versed in the comics or any of the backstory that I could point to and be like, well, they didn't put that in, so it's garbage. I feel like season 6 was, I think part of the problem was season 6 was partly in a time, with filming where Melissa couldn't be as involved because of her own very valid real life commitments. And I do think that as a result, there were things that probably didn't get a chance to be as tied up as they could have been too. So, or there were times where it was clear that they had to have Kara not on the show because Melissa couldn't be there or whatever. So I don't know. It's also hard too, because as much as you want the show to keep going, you also have to think about the fact that being a lead on a show like this is so exhausting, and how much effort you have to put in and day out. And so I feel like I sympathize with I've had a baby and I'm a mom now, and I want to focus on being a mother and having a family. And not being able to do that, and also be the lead of a major TV show at the same time. So as sad as I was to lose the show, I feel like we lost the show for a good reason. And it was Melissa being like, I've decided to, move on. And it wasn't like, oh, Supergirl's canceled. That's it. We don't get any chance to wrap things up. Season 5 was it or whatever. They kind of were like, okay, we're going to come. I can't even imagine if that would have been it. So at least
see if season 5 was the end of the show. Oh boy.
I just feel like right. Can you imagine?
Oh God.
Imagine. So I think getting to come back and do one final season, there's a part of me that can be grateful for that, but then also that's a little bit of a bummer that you can't do more. So, but also I'm like, well, it's good to see. I like that the show ends with Kara happy and Kara, coming out and being public with her identity, but also it's also so tough too, just to think about what the landscape of making television right now is and how COVID has impacted everything, and how, yes, as someone's saying in the comments, production had to be shut down for various shows, not just Supergirl. And then when it came back, there were things that were, there were things that had to be changed probably because of COVID protocols and things that you can't necessarily do on a show where you're trying to have everybody, pay a certain distance from each other. So you think about how that has unfortunately impacted just how we have to make television now. Unfortunately, while this is still happening. So I also understand from that perspective, that I would say probably there were a lot of reasons that I'm sure the writers didn't get to do everything they wanted to do either, either because of budget reasons, COVID reasons, actor availability reasons. There are so many things that happen behind the scenes that I think people just don't think about a lot of the time in terms of what can affect production. So, but I also can't fault the show for at least giving me an ending where I feel like it was a good resolution for the character, in spite of the fact that maybe the season itself was bumpy and there might have been some uneven things. It felt, I heard a cat.
Yep.
Is that Beaker?
He's just that's Bunsen. He
Oh,
has
that's Bunsen.
He's agreeing. He's like, you know
Mhm.
what? Television production schedules are hard.
So yeah, I think Kara choosing finally to embrace both sides of herself after seasons of being like, I don't know if I want to focus more on Kara or Supergirl. Well, the answer is Kara is Supergirl, and that's, But I would also have loved to have seen like a Kara having to lead Catco, but also like being people knowing that she's Supergirl now. That would have been kind of a fun like. I feel like that's a storyline that could have led to some fun drama of being publicly like, a superhero now.
Yeah, I felt like they left us in a weird place where I was like, well, I want to see that season. I want to see the season where everyone knows who she is.
And we'll never know. But I'm sure it would go real smooth. Just smooth all around for her
No
family, for her
problems.
friends. I'm sure she would just have so many easy days there as Supergirl and the editor-in-chief at Catco. Yeah, so I think they did kind of get to an endpoint that was mostly satisfying in terms of Kara, even though kind of the season that was leading up to it was very head scratching. But I think you make a good point, Carly, that they at least got part of it right. And I think the ending for Kara is probably, my speculation is that's what Melissa Benoist was talking about, that she was happy with the way things ended for Kara. That's my speculation. We don't know. We'd have to ask Melissa at some point if we ever get a chance to speak to her about that. But I think that's a good place to end for her. And don't sell yourself short, Carly, about Supergirl mythology. You know about Kryptonian werewolves. You know
right.
about Snapper Carr.
That's
You
true.
know about Eliza Danvers and her missing hand. So you know plenty about Supergirl comics. So don't sell yourself short. And did we ever tell you that we found out the answer to why Eliza was missing a hand?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, yeah. So one of our listeners actually asked Steve Orlando. We didn't have the guts to do it, but one of our listeners actually tweeted to Steve Orlando to ask him about, why is Eliza missing a right hand? And he said it was his way of honoring a friend of his who had a disability.
Okay.
So totally not explained in the story, but a beautiful sentiment. Wish that had been on the page, though. So later in Rebirth, Eliza got her hand back
Oh, okay.
miraculously. But that was the reason for that. So I thought we should, since that was a mystery back in the day, I thought we should clear the air there. But you know plenty about Supergirl comics and Supergirl mythology, so I just wanted to encourage you about that. Let's see. I guess this is where we will have you rank the seasons of the show. So I guess start with your top tier and then go to your bottom.
Oh man. I feel like I mean, I think 1 and 2 are probably pretty up there for me. I also think 4 is good because of how many characters it introduced. So probably is like up there is like 1, 2, 4. 3 is probably a little under that. And I'm trying to remember what else. I feel like I honestly, I think 5 and 6 are probably pretty evenly at the bottom for me. So that's kind of it's not really a ranking. It's more of like a pyramid, but it's like an upside down pyramid. Because I feel like 1, 2, and 4 are the strongest in terms of like not just characters introduced, but storylines. And then I think 3 falls kind of just under that, and then 5 and 6 are pretty on par for having not great stuff.
That's a fair ranking. I appreciate that. So I know that's tough to do because it's tough to kind of go back and look through that and try to weigh everything. But I think that's a fair way to rank the show. So good ranking order. And before we let you go, Carly, I was curious about what you think about Sasha Kaje's Supergirl. So we're going to be getting some version of Supergirl in the Flash movie with Ezra Miller. So what do you think about her version of Supergirl from what we've seen so far? Her suit, what are your hopes for her in the Flash movie? So do you have any thoughts about Sasha Kaje Supergirl?
The suit looks really cool. I mean, I'm glad that we've seen at least a little bit of it, because unfortunately they keep filming out in public and we're getting really bad like paparazzi press shots, which never look good, especially when it's, people being filmed on wires before the CGI has like erased everything and made it look nice. Plus I feel like with the Flash movie, aren't they doing the Flashpoint storylines? So they're bringing in different versions of characters, and that's kind of how we're getting like Ben Affleck Batman, but also Michael Keaton Batman. So I feel like, this might not even be the DC, the official, like, I guess the major universe Supergirl. This could be like an alternate universe Supergirl too. But I'm intrigued by it. I think it's going to be cool to see Supergirl in live action, and it's a different. I think it's also it's important, I think, too, for the movies to kind of differentiate enough from the TV show. But also, it was super fun to see Ezra Miller and Grant Gustin's Flash on screen together. So I'm like, well, maybe this will open the door at some point for us to have a Sasha Melissa meeting at some point. Even though I don't know if Melissa's going to go back to Kara anytime soon, but there's a part of me that's like, maybe a little bit. They've done it before, so just like merging the two. Yeah. So, I mean, look, the multiverse is a concept that exists for us to be able to have all these different versions of characters that we love. And personally, I think it's just fun to see different actors with different takes on it. So more Supergirl in live action is always a good thing. So.
Yeah, and we're going to get a Supergirl and a Flash team up again, which is nice, because that was something that was very, especially in the early days of the Supergirl TV series, Kara and Barry having a nice friendship and teaming up several times together. I thought that was always a nice thing about the Melissa Benoist, Grant Gustin portrayal. So it's neat to see that they're actually going to have a little bit of that in the film. So yeah, I'm a little nervous about it. I don't know what's going to happen in this Flash movie on so many levels. I'm a little nervous about it. I hope I'm not going to be ragey after it's over. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with Supergirl, and what version of Supergirl. Is it going to be Kara Zor-El? Is it going to be Linda Danvers? We don't know. We don't know who
options.
There's a lot of options. This could be the Matrix Supergirl. We don't know. This could be the Peter David version. We have no idea who this Supergirl is. So there's a lot of mystery still with that. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, is just seeing what the portrayal of her version of Supergirl is. All right. Well, Carly, before we let you go, is there anything else you wanted to bring up with Supergirl? Are you reading any of the comics? Are you kind of staying on top of Supergirl news? Is there anything that you're into these days?
The funny thing is, I'm so behind on comics, so I can't even say. I mean, I feel like anybody. I'm definitely looking forward to the Flash movie, just because I also think Sasha's haircut for Kara is really cute. I kind of like the whole like short little blonde, brown. I don't know. Again, it's a different style. It's fun. I'm looking forward to the Batman. I'm looking forward to potentially other DC stuff. So that's always fun to see, like, different takes on things like that. But I feel like, if anything, I haven't paid as much attention to like the Arrowverse lately, and I'm like, I'm slacking. I finished Supergirl and I was kind of like, maybe that's it for me for now.
That's a lot. That's a lot. You have to there's a recovery period, I think, after that. So it's totally fine to take a break. I would like to recommend Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow to you. It's an 8-issue story. It's a complete story. There's no random things that happen. It's all, it is the story that it is. And it has some of the most beautiful art I've seen in a comic book in a long time. So if you want to get back into Supergirl, highly recommend Tom King's Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Tom King's good. I heard the new Lois Lane comic is good too. I heard that one's my husband was like, there's a new Lois Lane comic. I just feel like you would like it a lot. He's way more up on comics than me. So he's always constantly trying to like, suggest stuff. But I heard the Lois Lane one is good. And I actually do like Tom King a lot. I feel like I like his his Batman Catwoman stuff. I remember one time he gave some interview where he talked about how he likes writing their romance because he loves love and because he's married or whatever. And I was like, I like that. I like that. I like when creators are like willing to acknowledge that these characters have a long-time relationship and they're not just, friends or whatever, or they're on again, off again, but they're off again because of the comic. They need to be off again for the comic. I'm just like, just let them be together all the time. I get it. They can't be because it's comics and there's always different people writing them, but
yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it, in my opinion, for the bat and the cat. I'm a big bat cat shipper, as it were. So I think that's a good approach myself. Well, Carly, thank you so much for taking some time this week and joining us back on Supergirl Radio so that we can pick your brain about things. It's interesting. A lot of the things that you talked about and brought up were very similar to some of the things that we talked about on the podcast. So it's interesting to hear different people not having had anything to do with our discussions, but having similar questions and thoughts. So it was good to pick your brain and hear your take on it. So how can our listeners, Supergirl Radio listeners and viewers, keep up with what you're doing?
I am still on Twitter at my name, and then also on Instagram, but I don't use it a lot. I'm terrible at Instagram these days. I mostly just stalk people. And then I am also senior TV editor now over at Collider. So
Nice.
I'm
Awesome.
reviewing a lot of fun TV shows and doing interviews. And I've got some fun stuff coming up. I'm reviewing Bridgerton and the new season of Outlander. And I basically am like taking advantage of my position to claim shows that I want to. I'm basically like, we need these reviews for next month, and these are the shows I want, and so I'm taking them.
My husband is a huge Wheel of Time fan, and I was like, no big deal, but like I know somebody who talks to the showrunner because I saw your articles come out with like your interviews with the showrunner about Wheel of Time after the episodes, and I was like, oh, this is giving me so much clout.
Yeah, I was really excited because Wheel of Time, I really enjoyed it. I reviewed it, and then they reached out to me and were like, we want you to can you do postmortems with the cast and the showrunner? And I was like, yes.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh man. But honestly, I mean, I can't say enough good things about the people that make the show. The cast is super lovely. Rafe Judkins, the showrunner, is somebody that you can just tell how much love he has for those books. And he talks about how he grew up reading them like with his mom, and it was a book series that like bonded them together. So it's been a lot of fun I think one of my favorite parts about doing the job is like getting to talk to people who make television and are involved in these projects, because I feel like they're just as excited about it as we are to watch it. So that's been a lot of fun.
Well, if you ever get to talk to the showrunners of Supergirl, and before we do, ask them about the lizard faces.
Oh man,
we need an answer.
First question, I promise.
All right, before we let you go, though, we're going to make some quick snap judgments, because I wanted to do snap judgments with you because I always credit you with coming up with the name Snap Judgments. So let's make a few snap judgments and we'll let you go. In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended and explanations are unnecessary.
Okay, our first snap judgment is from Gina, who asks, which storyline did you wish they didn't do? Leviathan or the Children of Liberty?
Am I going first?
Yeah. Guess go first.
Okay, Leviathan.
Yeah, I agree. I I mean, the Leviathan thing, we didn't even find out who was the head of it.
Leviathan was cool in theory. I really didn't like the way they did the Children of Liberty, so this is kind of tough for me. But I would probably say Leviathan though, because they didn't follow through with it.
Let's put it this way: there's no wrong answer to this question.
There is no wrong answer. I feel like at least I kind of knew what they were getting at with Leviathan. Like it was like here was like the mark, and they were like kind of over here. But like with Children of Liberty, but like with Leviathan, I have no clue. Like I don't know what they were like. I'm mad at technology. It was a little bit like Old Man Yells at Cloud that season. I was like, I'm just not really sure. You're mad at VR? Like what's going on? Okay, so our second snap judgment is from Michaela. Which would you rather have as a Supergirl spin-off TV show? The Legion of Superheroes in the 31st century, or an Alex and Kelly spin-off in which we get to see them raise Esme?
I got so excited I hiccuped. I don't know where that came from, but Legion of Superheroes. I like the idea of doing a show that far into the future because I feel like it's such a different landscape than the current CW Arrowverse show. So I'm all about the idea of doing a futuristic superhero show. I think Legions would be super badass.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't try to do that. They already had Legionnaires at cast. I don't know why they didn't spin that off, but I would watch a Legion of Superheroes TV show. I want to see Triplicate Girl and Bouncing Boy and Star Boy and Ultra Boy, all the boys, really, all the Ultra Boys and the Star Boys, and the Matter Eater Lad. So those are all a lot of quirky characters. They're so fun. You even have the Legion of Substitute characters, like the people who couldn't get into the Legion of Superheroes. Like I forget what they're called. It's something like the Legion of Substitute Heroes or something. I forget what the technical name is for that, but they're like the B list Legion of Superheroes. You can introduce them, so that would be such a fun show. So I would pick the Legion of Superheroes.
Oh yeah, the Legion of Superheroes, definitely. I think that there's so much stuff that they could like pull that would be really fun and wacky. That I think there's like just a good opportunity for them. So yeah, I think that would be fun to like go in the future. And
yeah, Nicole in the chat says, tell me more about Triplicate Girl. I don't know a ton about a Triplicate Girl, Nicole, but this is a girl who is 3 versions. There's 3 of her. And then at one point, I know one of them dies. So she becomes like duo damsel or something. It's actually really kind of sad that Triplicate Girl loses one of her triplicates. So look that up. It's very interesting.
I think that's all. I think that's all the snap judgments we have.
Yeah, so just wanted to do a little snap judgment with Carly, since Carly is the reason we call them snap judgments, which was always such a clever name. When Carly mentioned it, I was like, that's it. That's what we have. That's the name. So thank you for doing that. So we'll wrap up snap judgments and then let you go. No judgments on your snap judgments. All right, Carly, thank you again for being with us and making snap judgments and sharing all your Supergirl thoughts. And we'll be sure to check in on you every now and then and see how you're doing. But it sounds like you're doing great, and glad to hear that everything's going well. And so thank you for being with us.
Yeah, it was so much fun. We'll have to do it again sometime. Maybe talk about Supergirl and the Flash or something. Yeah. The Flash movie.
Yeah, anytime you want to talk about Supergirl, feel free to reach out to us. But we hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll kick you out now.
Okay.
Gotta kick you out. But thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so we are going to kick Carly from the stream, and we still have some feedback we need to get to, some Supergirl Radio business to attend to.
All right.
So just, I think we have 2 emails. Is that maybe 3. So we've got some feedback. So Morgan, I don't know if you've seen in the comments in the live chat, people are a little upset that it seems like we're going to be short for this.
This is short. It's an hour and a half, people.
Yeah,
It's already
so-
an hour and a half. We're
so-
not done.
So people in the chat, Nicole says Rebecca and Morgan are doing a tight 90 for a bit. I'm sure we're going to get some extended episodes again. Mark says when these go short, I feel like we should be heading out for drinks.
Short. I like that at the end of the series, the episodes had ballooned out so large that like an hour and a half feels like a short. Like this is just like a little taste of Supergirl Radio at this point.
So I just wanted to let people know we're not ending just now. We've got some feedback to
There's
get
still
to.
some more. Don't worry. We
Yeah.
might be able to get closer to the 2-hour mark like you like.
So there were some requests in the chat for longer episodes of Supergirl Radio. Well, let's get to some emails. We have an email from Travis who writes, quote, "Please forgive me. I've been just too busy with work and things, but I'm finally catching up on the podcast that wrapped up season 6 in the series. Listen today in the car on a 2-hour drive each way. My delay in listening does not correlate with my enthusiasm for your podcast, which is what I wanted to write to you about. I wanted to tell you that I've been a loyal listener since season 2 when I discovered your podcast, and of course went back and caught up on the season 1 episodes once I discovered it. So with the TV series wrapped and the retrospective episodes, I was also thinking about how much I've enjoyed the podcast over the life of the series. I'm so glad there are still more episodes of the podcast, which I need to catch up on, and I really hope you'll both continue to keep the Kryptonian flame burning brightly. I'm excited about all the great Supergirl topics that can still be covered, such as the comics. I can't remember if Morgan ever finally saw the 1980 film or not. Hopefully. Yes,
I did.
Morgan, just to let you know, Morgan did watch the 1984 film starring Helen Slater, and we debated it.
We did. We had a debate style episode where we took pros and cons on that movie. I put together a nice little PowerPoint, if I remember right.
It's one of the best PowerPoints I've ever seen in my life. It was so good.
I felt really proud of it, honestly.
Yeah, so Travis, if you missed that episode, definitely go back and listen or watch. You can watch it. It's a live stream, so you can see Morgan's beautiful PowerPoint. Just
Gorgeous.
just hilarious. More than just beautifully done. Just it's so funny. So if you've missed that, definitely go make sure you check out our Supergirl the movie debate, because it's I don't know. Maybe it's my bias, but I think it's one of our better episodes. And I'm not going to tell you who won the debate,
No.
so that'll be for you to discover. But yeah, Morgan did finally watch the movie. Travis goes on to say, "Quote: Anyway, thank you for all the love, dedication, diligence, and fun you have put into the series, and I hope it continues for years into the future. I would say until the 31st century, but somehow that just seems cruel, and you should probably be able to retire sometime in the next millennium if you so choose." Unquote.
It's very kind of you.
That is very kind. Maybe one day we'll retire from Supergirl Radio, but not this day. So we'll still be talking about Supergirl. We're going to be talking about the comics, getting back into Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, and if we have time, we'll finish Rebirth someday.
We are going to. I believe in us.
We are going to get to it. And we're going to be revisiting season 1 of Supergirl because Morgan was not around for some of those
I
episodes.
wasn't.
So
Got to rewind it all the way back.
so Morgan's gonna get to share her thoughts. I'm just gonna interview Morgan and find out what her thoughts were, because everybody already has heard my thoughts on it. So
But maybe some of your thoughts have changed with the passage of time and knowledge of what has come after.
possibly. So we'll have to see what happens with our Supergirl Radio rewind, which is hard for me to say. Supergirl
It is. It's a
Radio
tongue twister.
rewind. So check out those episodes in the future. So we've got some cool stuff coming up.
So Mara wrote in to say, just wanted to let you know that I really enjoy Supergirl Radio. It's fun and interesting companion to the show, and I'm so glad you are continuing even though the show has ended. Supergirl Radio is really the only reason I kept watching the show after season 3. I'm still a little behind. I'm on season 6, episode 14, and you guys are helping me slog my way through till the end. I wanted to share something fun. I know you both love the wacky side characters in the show and comics and help us listeners learn a lot about random folks like Cameron Chase and Director Bones. So I was super excited when both showed up in the Batwoman trade paperback I was reading. I was like, Director Bones, I know all about him and his cyanide sweat. I mean, if we've given anything from this podcast, it's that sentence was able to be said with excitement. I know all about Director Bones and his cyanide sweat. Mara goes on to say the book did not really explain anything about him, so I would have been very confused if not for your deep analysis of the character. I've attached an image of his first appearance in the book. My favorite part is the tie.
He's always looking sharp, Director Bones.
Always looking so sharp.
He always Director Bones always has a tie, usually a cigar as well, but he's always looking really nice, Director Bones. So we'll upload that to our website and link it in the show notes for people who are not maybe watching the live stream and just listening to the audio podcast, so you can see the image that Mara sent us. But it's nice to know that some of our listeners are following Director Bones and reporting back that they've seen the Director Bones appearance. So thank you for sending that in so that we can, because I didn't know that. So that's good to know. Mara also wrote in saying, quote, I really liked your episode about Pretty in Pink. I loved that movie when I was younger, but I have not seen it in a while. So it was fun to look back as you did your review. I will always think of John Cryer as Ducky and really enjoy that you guys call him Ducky Lex Luthor. That was a Morgan saying, so that's what stuck around for us. Mara goes on to say, quote, you guys all also talked a little bit about the movie Some Kind of Wonderful. That was my favorite 80s teen movie. I watched it over and over. I don't think it has a Supergirl tie-in. It was just a really good movie. You should watch it even if you don't review it on the show. I do, however, have an idea for a movie with a Supergirl tie-in that would be funny for you guys to review. And the movie is Not Another Teen Movie. It is a spoof movie from the early 2000s, and Kyler Lee is one of the leads. I actually saw this movie in the theater, and even though I don't remember much about it, it very likely could be a terrible movie. I do remember that the other lead is Captain America Chris Evans, and at one point he is only wearing a whipped cream bikini. Height of intellectual filmmaking, I know. I was really into teen movies in college, i.e. Varsity Blues, She's All That, etc. And this movie hits all the tropes, unquote. Varsity Blues, what a throwback. I don't know how much of those kinds of movies we will do. Our policy on Supergirl Radio is to always have a connection to Supergirl. So we could possibly tie that into Kyler Lee, but we'll have to kind of see what's going on with our schedule. So that's something to consider, I guess.
Put it in the back pocket there.
So
Chris Evans in a whipped cream bikini, heels. I mean, and Kyler Lee, obviously, of course.
Yes, no, of course. That's
some
the priority
really,
there.
really big reasons to watch that.
Yeah, I don't know. Is Not Another Teen Movie? Is that a Halloween? Is that a scary movie?
Or is that just like Not Another Teen Movie is basically like the teen movie version of Scary Movie, if that sentence makes any sense. But it's like basically like what Scary Movie did for like horror movies, like the parody and the spoof. It's like that, but for teen movies.
For like the She's All That genre.
Yeah, exactly. And like the Varsity Blues and the other ones. Because
I was going to say, if it was a horror movie, we could maybe do it for like Halloween.
Could be for spooky season,
but I can't remember exactly what that is. So we'll consider it. I don't know how much we could start this trend, just because if we do that, that opens up so many things, and we have a lot of Supergirl to cover. But we will keep it on the back burner and consider it for future episodes. If we have a way to work it in, we will definitely consider it. So thank you for writing in and making that suggestion. All right. Well, I guess this is the point of the episode where we need to get into some Supergirl Radio and some DCTV plugs so that you know everything that we're doing and who's involved. We're a little behind, and we need to update some of these podcasts, but that will be coming soon. We'll have to have another contest. But for now, this is how to keep up with us and also with the DC TV Podcast Network. If you would like to contact Supergirl Radio, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 678-718-7252. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Podchaser, and Spotify, where we also have a Spotify playlist that includes music featured on and inspired by the CW Supergirl TV series. We are listed on DC's fan page, which you can find at dccomics.com/DC-fans. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy our Supergirl Radio live streams, make sure to subscribe to the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and hit that notification bell to get notified when we go live and wired. DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store, so if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, onesies, mugs, notebooks, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast Network, so if you also like The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Black Lightning, Titans, Doom Patrol, Batwoman, Stargirl, Superman and Lois, and the upcoming Green Lantern, Justice League Dark, and Strange Adventure shows, and DC TV After Dark, you can subscribe to the DC TV Podcast Mega Feed on Apple Podcasts. Follow at DC TV Podcasts on Twitter, and like DC TV Podcasts on Facebook, or else. This has been a message from Hope, inhabiting the Flash vessel, also known as New Rachel.
And speaking of the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store, as we were just, we have some Supergirl Radio related merch.
Yeah, we have a couple of designs in the TeePublic store. We need to update some things, maybe get some new designs in there. But for right now, we have some Snap Judgments merchandise if you want to pick that up. If you're needing something for some warmth during this winter season, we've got Snap Judgment sweatshirts and hoodies. You could also make a cup of cocoa or some hot tea or some coffee if you'd like in a Snap Judgments mug, which is really fun. I have one of those and I like to use it because Sarah Louver, who drew that for us, aka Comicer Girl, she really made Snapper Car just look the coolest. So I always love that design. So if you're a big fan of Snap Judgments and you want to support Supergirl Radio and the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store, you can check the link on supergirlradio.com. That would be how to check that out. And keep your eyes peeled. We try to let people know when there's a sale, but just keep your eyes peeled because TeePublic will have sales every month. So I definitely recommend getting them when they are a little cheaper. So keep your eye peeled for that. And we would like to thank our Legion of Super sponsors for supporting Supergirl Radio through our Patreon. These people are Michael, Sam, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Quinn, Nicola, Leslie, Abby, Irmgard, Miriam, Donna, Nicole, Lizette, Faith, Brian, and Ethan. So thank you to everyone who supports the Supergirl Radio Patreon. There's 4 ways to do that at patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. This is just a way to get some bonus Supergirl Radio. Every week you get your free hour and a half, tight 90 to 2 hour version of Supergirl Radio. But when you support the Supergirl Radio Patreon, you can get a little bonus according to the various monthly options that we have. So sometimes you get a little peek behind the curtain of how we record certain things, or you might get an extra a lab cat experience.
You might.
Sometimes that happens. And so it's just a fun way to support the podcast and get a little extra from Morgan and me. So if you're a big fan of the podcast, we certainly appreciate everyone who supports the Patreon. And if you want to keep up with me, you can follow me on the platform Vero True Social. If you're into that, it's actually my favorite social media platform. It handles photography really well. And it's just a place where I like to share what I've been watching and things I've been reading when I actually get to read. So that's a fun way to share those things. But if you're on Vero, I'm at Derby Kid. That's where I am. So you can follow me there. I'm also on Instagram at the Derby Kid. So if you want to check me out on Instagram, I try to take up a couple of pictures every now and then. Recently went to the Alabama Shakespeare Festival and saw my favorite Shakespeare play, which is Macbeth. And it was wonderful. I'd never seen it actually performed before. I'd only read it. So that was really fun to actually get to see it in person. So I took a couple of pictures there. So that was a lot of fun. And you can also check me out on my personal YouTube channel at youtube.com/duckmilkprod. I'm taking a few weeks off of my Batman v Superman reviews that I've been looking at, which is just going to prolong this arduous project that I'm doing for myself even further. So this may become like a 2-year project for me. I'm going to get through it eventually. But if you're interested in talking about film analysis and film criticism, join me over at my Duck Milk Prod YouTube channel.
Cool. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic. You can also find me as a co-host on the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, which I believe will be back for the end of season 7, which is crazy. That came and went very fast next week. And you can also check me out on DC TV After Dark, which we are planning on doing again.
I thought it was coming.
In the next couple of weeks. We I think we're going to be recording probably sometime in like early March. So you should expect I always say the best way to know when a new episode is coming is like just kind of like step outside and like whisper to the wind like after dark ? And but definitely make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast feed because it's really there's no rhyme or reason to the posting schedule. It just sort of appears. It's kind of like a present for everybody. Like, hey, it's me. So it will be coming sometime eventually.
Well, I think that is a good thing. I'm very excited about the DC TV After Dark potential. So do you have a guest lined up for that?
We are going to be talking to Andy Babak from the Flesh podcast. So that should be fun. We're going to ask him all the like the hot button issues. We're going to ask him for his hot takes. We're going to see what words he likes and doesn't like. So
well, he's a good one to talk to about that kind of stuff because he has a lot of thoughts about a lot of those shows. So
he does. He's gonna have a lot of thoughts about those shows, and we're gonna be like, we've watched some of them, and it's gonna be a fun time.
Well, that's an episode. I always look forward to any DC TV After Dark episode, but that's especially one that I will definitely be listening to because I'm sure that will get a little wild versus my appearance, which was mostly tame. So Andy will, I'm sure, have a spark.
I mean,
to
you
him.
had a very shocking favorite curse word, if I remember right.
Yeah, people would be so shocked.
So shocked. Everybody's gonna have to listen to that episode to hear what it was. But honestly, my jaw hit the floor. I couldn't believe it. Trying to hype it up in a way where people are gonna be like, "What's wrong with them?" Really?
Yeah, and with Legends, are they gonna like have the next season like in a week or 2?
So
is that usually how they roll?
That's kind of a fun, exciting time for us because we don't even know it's been renewed. Yeah. So we have no idea if or when the next season will be. Will the next season be at all? Is a question. So they haven't officially renewed it. I can't imagine it will be stacked back to back like it was this time because God knows that they haven't filmed anything, right? They couldn't have. They couldn't have. So we're gonna get a much needed hiatus where we'll be able to do like fun hiatus episodes and things that are like a little bit, more ambitious that we've done. Like we did like the last hiatus, we did like a queer representation pod roundtable, and we're hoping to do fun stuff like that, like pilot pods and things. But we honestly have no idea. We're hoping it gets renewed for season 8. It would be a real bummer if this was the last one. We just didn't find out until the end. So
that's it. Let the legendary ladies know that I have game night ideas.
Nice. We love a good game night.
Yeah, and since you're going to be recording with Sarah soon, you can include her in that. We'll have to have another game night with them.
The last one was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have some things that we could maybe do, and so make sure everybody's got their gray sweaters, and we'll get back to doing that.
Got it.
All right. Well, we tried to extend it out for those who wanted the 2-hour long episode. But we'll have to have some lengthy episodes later for those who enjoy the longer versions of Supergirl Radio. But until then, this is going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And we hope you enjoyed this reunion of Supergirl Radio podcasters.
McGurk! I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that. So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom. Because
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yeah!